Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Turin here with another Warhammer Total War online commentary. In this battle, I'm going to be piloting the Dwarves, led by High King Thorgrim. I'm going to be facing off against the Vampire Counts. So definitely going to be a very tough matchup. I feel like the Dwarves are one of the weaker factions. Personally, I have some pretty substantial misplays this game, but you guys will get to see those. It'll be nice and entertaining. So while we're waiting, I'll go over my army composition and kind of just explain my reasoning here. So as far as the front line goes, I feel like in terms of Dwarf Infantry, I don't like Dwarf Warriors. I feel like they just kind of get punished, so, in most matchups against equivocal costed infantry. So I decided to go with Longbeards this game. So I have a front line of 5 Longbeards. Behind them, I have 2 groups of Thunders. Again, against Vampire Counts, they're going to have all kinds of flying nonsense, so you always got to have at least some range. And personally, I opted out of getting artillery this game because a lot of times when I go artillery against Vamp Counts, they just get locked down immediately by Fellbats or Vargulfs, Vargeists, whatever, and it's just, I don't know, that usually doesn't pay off for me against Vamp Counts, and I feel like the damage you get when they're charging is not worth it. So, yeah, it's just my 2 cents. As far as I have High King Thorgrim, he is, in my opinion, essential against Vampire Counts because he does magic damage, hence he's able to deal with Hex Wraiths and all that kind of unfun stuff. And then I have 2 Runesmiths. Now, I do this so I can spam the Rune of Wrath and Ruin against Hex Wraith, and Ethereal units. It is essential. Granted, this battle doesn't go the best for me, but again, in most matchups, I would highly recommend it. You can bomb down a group of Hex Wraiths or any of those type of units really quickly with them. Behind them, Longbeards don't do a lot of damage, so to really pack that punch in and finish opponents off, I like to get a few groups of Hammers. I really like these units. Pretty high damage, good, decent stats all around, and just a very cool unit. They got their big beat sticks there. And in the back here, I have some Slayers, and I feel like it's just kind of a blasphemous to not get at least one group of Slayers with any dwarf army, regardless of whether or not they're needed. They're just awesome. So as far as his composition goes, he has a fairly diverse army. He has Graveguard, he has Cairn Wraiths, there you go, just waiting for that Rune of Wrath and Ruin. He has a lot of bats here, so I'm very glad at this point that I didn't bring artillery, because he would just use these expendable bats to lock them down while his infantry get close. Then more Graveguard here. He's got some Crypt Horrors in the back line. He has a Wizard of Sorts. I believe it's just a Vampire back there. And let's see. It may have been Mannfred. I'm not sure. I didn't get a close enough look. But regardless, we'll find out shortly. He's definitely using some funny business back there. So without further ado, let's get started. So I advanced just a little bit. Again, I wasn't sure of his plan. I didn't have artillery, so I didn't necessarily need to turtle. So I just wanted to get in these Thunders in decent positions. So this group of Thunders, I line up here facing these bats outward, and this other group I keep aiming forward to start taking shots at Cryptors and these type of things. So this match, for you guys, I actually saw an ability for one of the first times ever in this matchup. So this will definitely be a good educational lesson for everyone here. So it'll be a textbook of what not to do when you're in this situation. So he's advancing his line. He kind of just has a massive Zerg wall here. No real formation, but again, he does actually have the Cairn Wraiths intermixed with his units, so that's certainly good. He's spreading them out and making targeting a little tricky, but over here, I just thought he was coming to do, usual vampire harass, but he lines up here, and I was very happy. I was like, okay, my Thunders are going to get some good shots here, but then he starts to cast something, and I was like, what is that? But look at this. Just look at that. That is so brutal. I mean, I usually have a pretty standard formation, but that's just game over right there. I really, really cannot win now. Honestly, if that didn't happen, I think I would have had a chance, but look at the damage. That's 70 to 80% damage across all of my units. So that was the first time I had that ability used on me, so lesson learned, maybe stagger your formations a little bit, or at least adjust accordingly if you see they're landing on you over there. So these Thunders, they got some nice shots off, and were able to do some good damage. As you can see, 1 Rune of Wrath and Ruin on these guys and took them down. So that's the one saving grace I have going for me this game. So I see he comes back for another one, so I definitely had enough, so I said, screw this. I'm just going to charge in. And thankfully, that one does almost nothing. Wasn't as good of a shot, but that is a brutal ability. So I use my Slayers to cover these guys back here, and they start to kill these bats very quickly. That was kind of my plan. And then I use these excess hammers to beat on these guys, realizing it was a waste at that point. I charged them over here, but these guys are already broken. They took huge losses from that. So that kind of screwed up my whole plan, to be honest. And he has a lot of bats, but thankfully the Thunders will be able to take him. This group of Thunders and Slayers were able to dispose of that unit of bats, but it's still definitely a very rough matchup. So I try to pull my Thunders back to start getting some pot shots on this group over here, but definitely going poorly. Over here, I'm doing pretty good. I have my Runesmith, who's has stand your ground. I'm using the armor and the damage resistant rune, and you can see these Karen Wraiths over here. They're taking massive losses, and they essentially will instantly go down. And then I'm using High King Thorgrim here. He's also doing very well against these Karen Wraiths. And again, against dwarves, if you're playing, I mean, as dwarves, if you're playing against vampire counts, you do not want to bring the Slayer King. As cool as he is, he will be almost useless against armies that use Karen Wraiths and Hex Wraiths. So, again, these Slayers are fighting here. Not the best situation, but I was able to get the Thunderers back, and now they're doing quite a bit of damage. So, a lot of times when you're playing as dwarves, they'll get Doven on. I would suggest using some units like hammers or whatever you have in your auxiliary ranks to defend them. And in the meantime, you pull them back, and then they can shoot on whatever the other unit had engaged. So they're doing pretty good damage, but again, I took such serious losses in my front line that I'm just being overwhelmed everywhere, because pretty much most of my infantry routed or running off, you know, being at, what, starting the fight at 20%, but the Thunderers did pretty good. As you can see, these Graveguards took some heavy losses from the Thunderer fire, and over here I'm actually doing pretty well. You can see these, I'm just spamming Rune of Wrath and Rune on these guys, so just look at those guys drop. So again, guys, remember that's a pro tip. And not only that, but they are very good supplements to your army. If I was able to have kept my flank intact without getting decimated like that, I could have put one runesmith with each group and provided substantial defensive benefits to my entire army. So at this point, my Thunderers, I just keep them and pulling them back and re-engaging, trying to get them caught on these Slayers that are left. But at this point, he had a very, very tight chase on him. So I just turn on and fight, because again, Thunderers do have pretty good offensive stats in terms of melee. That's why I'm a big fan of Thunderers. But again, you don't want to spam too much range, because you'll just get overrun by bats and other units like that. So these guys are getting some nice pot shots off over here, but he immediately sees that and just brings these Crypt Horrors in again. You know, these Slayers they're trying, but you know, they're kind of just chilling. They're tired of this nonsense and just getting knocked over. I think they should get up shortly, but it's not going well for me. I mean, my one pocket of resistance I have here is these guys. He's using Invocation of Nehek to keep his guys up, which is very smart. Invocation of Nehek is a very cost-effective ability to use on Karen Wraiths, because they take that high reduced greatly reduced physical damage. But regardless, he's doing that. But again, I'm spamming the runes every time they're up, and I've destroyed most of his Karen Wraith units. So I took that as a bit of a victory in a way that tactic worked. But again, taking that initial beatdown in the beginning was really rough. So I'll just fast forward this, because you know, the rest of this battle is just kind of me getting savaged here. But again, look at these runesmiths sitting here. And then also the High King, he provides a passive leadership bonus. So that's another perk of him over the Slayer King, is that he does provide leadership to all of your nearby troops. So I think that's why this group was able to survive for so long. So, and again, he's just sitting up here and using his funny business. And that actually was Mannfred. He just wasn't on his classic zombie dragon. So definitely a good game there. I learned a lot. It was definitely an educational lesson to perhaps stagger my ranks, or at least move when you see that cast animation coming. So as you guys will see, the High King did quite well, and both of these runesmiths in terms of melee combat did very good. And you can see that these Karen Wraith units got decimated. So that was definitely a cool tactic. These Longbeards, they just got destroyed. They routed instantly. I mean, this guy got 1 kill, and these guys were all engaged. You know, this is the best one with 8 kills. But the Slayers did pretty well for themselves. Again, I really like Slayers. Very solid unit. The Hammerers both did pretty good. They did their job for the most part. But again, this group of Hammerers here was on that right flank where there was no other. There was 3 groups of Longbeards with them that just all routed instantly. And these Thunderers, they tried, you know. But again, they had no front line, so they just got blitzed through and had Crypt Horrors running at them and all kinds of that stuff. So definitely well played to Tweakin. He did a really good job of using that hero ability. That was definitely very tough. So his Graveguard did quite well. Karen Wraiths got pretty wrecked though. But again, Karen Wraiths are not a terribly expensive unit, so definitely a decent investment. These Graveguards with great weapons racked up a lot of kills, and again, his bats did well. Look at this group; it got 39. So but what these were doing, which was very smart, is he was chasing down my routing units, because I had a group like maybe 20 or 30 Longbeards routing, and he chased them down all the way to the end and picked them clean. So that definitely keeps them from coming back in close fights. And again, Crypt Horrors are just an all-around solid unit, and they did pretty well for themselves. So good game again to Tweakin. Look forward to rematching you on ladder. I'll definitely be looking out for Mannfred's funny business next time. And thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll be putting out a lot more content in the next few days. Definitely some Beastmen funny business coming. So thanks again, guys. Y'all take care.